of the most famous lines in the Haggadah is the words, "Ma Nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylos." Something said by the child at the table. He asks, as it's usually translated, why is this night different from all other nights? In the Gra Haggadah, he makes the following point. He says, Laila ends with a kamitz hey. It's a word that ends in the manner of a lashon nekeva. Words in Hebrew are divided between words which are masculine and feminine. And typically the kamitz hey ending is a feminine ending. If so, it should say, Ma nishtana halayla hazais mikol halaylos. Zais being the feminine form of hazeh. So the Gra asks why it says halayla hazeh. Why the feminine laila here is expressed with a masculine description. And to that he answers that this night is like Yom. He's referring to the concept of Laila Kayam Yoir, that Pesach night was in many ways like a day. Day symbolizes a time of liberation, a time of joy, a time of redemption. Darkness always symbolizes a time of challenge, a time where God seems hidden, a time where everything around a person looks dark. Says the Gra, the night of Pesach is Halayla Hazeh. Even though it's night, it's described as masculine because Laila Kayam Yoir. This is a vart of the Gra, a thought of the Gra, which in and of itself seems rather understandable and easy enough. The Torah Tamima, in his Pirush Parshas Kisisa, the pasuk Mechalaleha Ma'is Yumas, in his notes, brings this Gra, and he writes that it makes no sense. As a matter of fact, the language he writes is Eich ta'a b'davar pashut kozeh. The Gra seems to have made an error. While it may be true that the kamitz hey ending is typical of words which are feminine, Laila is not one of those words. The word Laila throughout Tanakh is always used in the masculine form. Most famously, B'layla hahu nodada shenas hamelech. Laila hahu is masculine, and Laila is described as masculine. Or by the dreams of the Sarah Mashkin and the Sarah Eifim, V'yachlumu chaloim b'layla achas. They had a dream, b'layla echad rather. B'layla echad in the masculine form. It doesn't say b'layla achas. And that's true universally. Throughout Tanakh, the word vayifku ha'am b'layla hahu by the Meraglim. They wept b'layla hahu in masculine. As a matter of fact, in the Haggadah itself, just a bit past the Nishtana, we find that hayu mesumim b'bnei Barak kol oisai halayla. Oisai being the masculine form, not kol oisa halayla. And the Torah is certainly right. The word Laila is always a masculine word, despite ending with a kamitz hey. I guess the Gra would be ascribed to some Talmud Taya, to somebody who reported what he said erroneously, and it must be a mistake. The Pella is that the Shlah Haggadah has a very similar idea, similar vart. As a matter of fact, there, it's on the episode of Hayu Mesumim b'bnei Barak, called Oisei HaLaila. Similarly, he says Laila is feminine, Oisai is masculine, and he asks the question, he says, Laila Kayam Yoyer, the night of Pesach is different. Could it be that the Shlah and the Gra both made the same mistake? It's not a mistake they could make. Perhaps Talmidim of two great people in two different centuries, in two different places, made the same mistake. It's something which really begs for some type of an explanation. It may be that there's a much deeper meaning here. Laila always represents a time of Hester Panim. Throughout Tehillim, with one exception, Laila refers to a time of tsaris, of difficulty. It doesn't mean the time between sunset and sunrise. It means lahagid ba'beiker chastecha. In times of joy, we talk about God's kindness. Ve'emunascha ba'leilos. And at night, we talk about faith. Laila, more than the actual 12-hour period of darkness, which is natural in the world, Laila represents a time of darkness in the sense of mood, of attitude, of a time period, a dark time period. We say it was a dark part of our history. Dark or night represents a time of challenge. Laila is a feminine word. The Gra and Shla are right. Yet we always found it used in the masculine. Yes. There's always an element of Laila Kayam Yoyer. The primary Laila of the Jewish people is the night of their birth, the night on which they brought the first Korban Pesach, the night on which they were let go from their exile in Mitzrayim and went on to become a people. That night, say the Shla and the Gra, is Kiyam. It's darkness, but it has an element of day. It doesn't end there. It's always that way for the Jewish people. It's always that way. In Tanakh, Laila, despite it being a feminine word, is depicted as a part of Yom, depicted in a masculine way, in the idea of redemption. Most mitzvahs maisiyos, most mitzvahs aseh, which are unique to a time period, are performed by day, either by day and by night, as in the mitzvah of Sukkah, or if limited to either day or night, it's a day mitzvah, the shofar, the esrig, and the lulav. Most mitzvahs are day mitzvahs. The exception is the Seder night, where we have mitzvahs that are unique to night, because that's the first night of the Jewish people. Laila Kayam Yoyer. And it represents an example, a dimension of all the many nights of a very long, challenging, and bitter galus. There's always an element of Yom. There's always an element of light. There's always the growth from the galus, the Korah Barzel, the purifying element of Jews who have faith in the dark periods. They're dark indeed, but they have Yom. They have an element of Laila Kayam Yoyer, of the light, the hidden light, of a day which is masked by the darkness of night. The Jewish people have been through much. The Holocaust, perhaps being the worst of the time periods of this long galus, the darkest of all. And from the Holocaust came a lot of light, came a rebirth of Torah among the Jewish people, came the world of Torah in the United States, which didn't exist previously, and most of all, came HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mercy on the Jewish people and bringing them back to the land of Israel. We come back to the land of Israel, that it should be a time of Yom, it should be a time of day, it should be a time of light, despite all of the challenges. The light of the Jewish people are those Jews who have grabbed onto, who have returned to a way of Torah, of Yiddishkeit, who have become people who are proud Yidden in the Masorah of our Avos. Many years ago, about Tshuva from Eretz Yisrael came to us in the United States, and he stayed with us for Shabbosos. And it came Pesach time, and he said he's going to go back to his parents and try to teach them what an Orthodox Jewish person's Pesach is like. His parents had a set of had dishes that were Pesach dishes. Why? When their grandparents were from and saw that their children went off the derech, shed the beauty of Yiddishkeit. This young man's great-grandparents gave his grandparents a gift of Pesach dishes. Maybe someday he'll use it. And those Pesach dishes were passed to this young man's parents. And now he was going, and he said, okay, let's use the Pesach dishes, the new dishes still unused from the last religious family in this chain. He calls me 2 days before Pesach from his parents' home. Very sad. Why is he sad? You see, his parents don't have separate milk and dairy dishes. They have one set of dishes. And when they got a set of Pesach dishes, it too was one set of dishes. It made no sense to give them 2 sets of dishes. And what's he going to do now? One set of dishes for meat and dairy? That's a problem. As we were talking, he mentions, and you know it's a funny thing, the dishes my great-grandparents bought are glass dishes. And I realized the great-grandparents, in their sadness, in their children going off the derech, bought them Pesach dishes. They knew they didn't keep separate meat and dairy, so they brought glass. There's an opinion which we rely on b'shas hadachak, in time of great need, that glass doesn't absorb taste and can be used for dairy and for meat. And now these great-grandparents looking down from on high see their great-grandson who is making a Pesach. And I told him they knew what they were doing. The glass dishes are Pesach dishes. For dairy, for meat, perhaps try not to put hot dairy directly on them. But more than the practical aspect of the dishes was that plan of the great-grandparents, which came out now in the great-grandson. This summer, I was in Ohr Somayach, and a young man came over to me, a yeshiva man, a kollel person. And he said, Rabbi Reisman, do you remember? I mentioned his father's name. I said, of course I remember him. In the 90s, he came to our house as about tshuva, and he had this incident with Pesach. He said, yes, I'm his son. It's these generations that bring light to the darkness of our galus. It's these generations, I was just taken aback. I embraced this young man and said to him, I love you, and I don't even know you. Imagine. This is taking place in Eretz Yisrael. Ohr Somayach is the center of the universe. It's the place where the light of a great darkness comes forth. A darkness, the Holocaust was a terrible darkness. It was a physical darkness. There's a spiritual darkness in many corners of the world where Jewish descendants of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are being raised without Torah. And here you have the bright light of Ohr Somayach. The bright light that is the product of Ramnata Shilla, who I was fortunate enough to learn from so many summers when I met him in Ohr Somayach. And Reb Mendel Weinbach, a Talmud of our yeshiva Torah V'das, who I also knew for a number of years in the yeshiva. And they created this bright light. Ohr Somayach, Ohr is light. It's a light of joy in the darkness of our galus. It's a place for which it is said, Halayla Hazeh, the masculine form of night. And so we come together on the Pesach, at the Pesach Seder. We remind ourselves, Ma Nishtana Halayla Hazeh. The youngster saying the Ma Nishtana may not realize the depth that the Gra saw in it. The Gra saw in this the idea, Laila Hazeh. What do you know? Laila has a Yom aspect to it. If you look in the language of the Gra Haggadah, he doesn't refer specifically to Pesach night. He says that Laila has in it Yom. It's true, of course, primarily about Pesach night. but it's what we can make out of the darkness of the many nights of this long Golus. And so, together with a celebration of Zman Cheruseinu, we tip our hats to Ohr Somayach, the place that spreads the Cherus, Elocha ben Chayun ela misha isik b'Torah, the Cherus to so many who would not otherwise have it. A Chag Koshos v'Sameach to one and all.
Hi, this is Peretz Baruch Eichler, a proud alumnus of Ohr Somayach. Now what you just watched is one of the many programs that Ohr Somayach provides, leaving its impact on hundreds of thousands with so many more waiting to be reached. Ohr Somayach's central campus in Jerusalem has over 300 students presently learning there. And now you can be a vital part of spreading that bounty of knowledge worldwide by logging on to donate.ohr.edu. We can step up to the plate at this pivotal moment of Ohr Somayach's growth and bring the next generation of Jews home.